I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is...
Jesus.
By the band...
You know what? It's by Noah...
Gundersen? Who is he?
I don't know. This is for the big homie Ben, or Benjamin. Every time I see his name, Benjamin B, I always think of Benjamin Button, and I never even saw it. There's a movie with Benjamin Button, right? I don't know anything about it. Actually, if I was to take a guess from what I've heard, I feel like it's about somebody whose life goes in reverse. Like, do they get older?
Yeah.
I mean, they get younger? Or something like that?
They get older and younger at the same time.
Okay. Not sure how that's possible, but anyway. So,
this should be interesting. For timely, topical, political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. DL Beluga has been out of commission, so...
I'm sure he'll have quite a bit to say.
There will be much ink to be spilled on this one.
No doubt.
Okay, so Saints and Liars is the name of the album. The guy's name is Noah Gundersen. Who is that? Like, where is he from? Anyway... the name of the song is Jesus, Jesus. Tell the beautiful people how we ended up hearing this song. Or hearing about the song.
There's a couple ways that you could hear a song like this. One is if you're like, you know what, I want to get a song on the list. You can jump on Patreon. The opening is at $1. Wait a minute, I gotta take these headphones off.
$1 at the gate. Gets you in at Patreon.
I thought you were going to say it, so I put my
$1 at the gate gets you to Patreon. You join an alliance, and the alliance pulls their points together, and that helps dictate what song we do. If you don't want to join Alliance, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line, and at that point, you get to do this. You do that 3 times, and it goes down to $75. Okay, having said that, Jesus by Noah Gundersen. Is that the official video?
No. Well, I mean, there's nothing official looking about it.
All right, let's do it.
Here we go.
Jesus, Jesus, could you tell me what the problem is with the world and all the people in it? Because I've been hearing stories about the end of the world, but I'm in love with a girl and I don't want to leave her. And the television screams such hideous things. They're talking about the war on the radio. They say the whole thing's gonna blow, and we will all be left alone. No, we'll be dead, and we won't know what hit us. Jesus, Jesus, if you're up there, won't you hear me? 'Cause I've been wondering if you're listening for quite a while. And Jesus, Jesus, it's such a pretty place we live in, and I know we fucked it up, but please be kind. Don't let us go out like the dinosaurs, or blown to bits in a third world war. There are 100 different things I'd still like to do. I'd like to climb to the top of the Eiffel Tower, look up from the ground at a meteor shower, and maybe even raise a family. Jesus, Jesus, there are those that say they love you, but they have treated me so goddamn mean. And I know you said forgive them, for they know not what they do. But sometimes I think they do, and I think about you. And if all the heathens burn in hell, do all their children burn as well? What about the Muslims and the gays and the unwed mothers? And what about me and all my friends? Are we all sinners if we sin? Does it even matter in the end if we're unhappy? Jesus, Jesus, I'm still looking for answers, though I know that I won't find them here tonight. But Jesus, Jesus, could you call me if you have the time? And maybe we could meet for coffee and work it out. And maybe then I'll understand what it's all about.
That is a very sweet and honest song.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. And I liked his voice.
I think sometimes with metal, I don't want to say the coward's way out because that's too strong. But the "Rah, I hate God" is really a person like this inside.
Oh yeah, I think it can be for sure.
And it's like some of it is really, vengeful hatred of God for sure. Certainly. But a lot of it is, I got hit with a left hook to the ribs. I was in a certain forum and somebody jumped on to argue with me about whatever. So I'm talking to this kid and, he's one of these new atheists or whatever. And he didn't have his, he had his things that he thought were gotcha things. And it's one of those situations where I knew what he was going to say before he was going to say it. And, he got caught, in a couple situations in the conversation. And, he was doing the laughing thing that happens and the fake mockery that happens when you're trying to project that you're like this intellectual superior, but he didn't know what he was talking about. And I just ran circles around this kid. And I forgot what I said before he left. He said something about I said something like, "Oh, you're a beautiful brother." Because I think we were going back and forth, and I was saying goodbye to him or whatever. I was like, "Oh, you're a beautiful brother." And he's like, he kind of looked at me weird. I think the dude was gay. And I think he was assuming oh, you know what I mean? But you know how I am. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, "Oh, you're a beautiful brother." And then I said, "You're very blessed, man. God made you very beautiful." And he said, "Well, I'm also morbidly depressed, so there's that." And then he just hung up. And it was one of those situations where there's a lot of pain in there,
Yeah.
It was I'm just blown away by how many people are carrying around so much pain.
Yeah.
It's you obviously being in the channel, and even what we were doing right before the channel.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
But I guess in that situation I was already kind of preconditioned because it was like, okay, these are people who are poor, they're in the poverty line, they're in drugs, or they know somebody on drugs, somebody that lives on drugs, they've known somebody who's died of an OD. So, being confronted with their pain was just something that, you just go into the conversation, and it's always a subtext in the discussion. It's always underneath there. And then when you hear, my mother showed me to her drug dealing friends, so that, it still shocks you, but you expect it.
Yep.
I remember one time me and you were, I was driving you around, calming you down over some issue, and then we looked out and there were these two kids, smaller than Johan, walking around by themselves, no parents. Just crazy circumstances, where, it's just a sad situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was, you expected it because, that's what. But being around and talking to people, especially on the internet, you can kind of curate what you show people.
Well, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can kind of do this and that. And it was sort of like at the beginning of that conversation, me and this kid were like, you know, locking arms. Here's a theist, here's the atheist, blah, 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 going at it. And there was that little one moment of humanity where I was like, oh, you know, I was like complimented it on something. Oh, you're a beautiful brother, you're very symmetrical, blah, blah, blah. And I meant it. And you know how I am. Like if it comes to my head, you know, I feel like God wants me to say, I'm going to say it. That doesn't seem to be my problem. It's the other side that seems to be the problem. Or sometimes God's like, well, you just shut the hell up. You shut up.
You've said too much now.
There've been so many times, bro, where I've been like, do not hit send. Don't. It's just like Orion. Like,
That's exactly what I thought of when you just did that.
yeah. I'm paying threefold for my. So like, it was just like a strange moment in humanity, and you know, say what you want. He said it, haha, sarcastically or whatever. It had nothing to do with any of the conversations we had.
Yeah.
And then he left immediately. You know, and reached out to him, prayed for him, whatever. But shout out to the homie if you're watching. But you know, it's just one of those things where like this guy is like to me, there's a lot of Nergal in this. You know what I mean? This is one of the reasons why, you know, people have always been shocked sometimes about the way that we engage with black metal or satanic music or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, and like I said, I get it. There are a lot of people who are just, you know, intellectually unsatisfied with the claims of Christianity, whatever people want to say. I understand that. And there are people who genuinely just hate God, like who are, you know, immersed in a lot of dark stuff, dark intelligences, as we say. But I just think that there's also a lot of people who, you know, would never allow themselves to be this childlike in their vulnerability and engaging these problems.
Yeah.
I think, which is one of the reasons that I love Ian so much, and I
literally thought of Ian so many times during this song. That's so crazy.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, he had a family member that passed away, and I think I love the fact that he's as upset as he is about it, because I feel like I moved on too quickly from those people in my family that died, you know, and, you know, we're in different situations, you know, but I'm glad that he, you know, I'm glad that he's as upset as he is about it, because I don't know, I was not really able to be as upset as I really was about it, because, you know, just the roles that I occupy on, you know,
I agree with that 1,000%.
Positions I've had to play. So, but yeah, this is a really, really deep song, and yeah, I like the simplicity and the childlike nature, and I like the Catcher in the Rye vibe, the Holland Caulfield vibe.
Yeah.
I did a review of the Catcher in the Rye.
It's on the channel.
Yeah, it was on this channel specifically. People are like waiting for part 2. They've been waiting literally for a year for part 2.
Yeah.
So,
well, to be fair,
almost two
you did
years,
say
actually.
you
2
did
years.
say that when we went full time, you'd have time to do that. We went full time on the channel, but
yeah.
Yeah. For me, were you gonna say something else?
Oh, go ahead.
The childlikeness of the whole thing, like the honesty and the childlikeness, was really moving, and the way that he worded some of the things, like not everybody believes in dinosaurs. You know what I mean? Like,
It's just something.
and when I hear dinosaurs, I think of little boys with their toys.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
that kind of went
100%.
along with the whole thing. And I actually, when he did verse 2, I was remembering that I used to always be afraid that God was going to end the world before I was able to get married and have a family. And that was like really big to me. Like, I was like, I just wanted to get married and have at least one baby before God like ended the world. So when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, it actually made me feel a little bit emotional, because I was like, I remember like worrying about that. Like I can remember begging God, like, please, please just let me get married and have at least one baby.
Yeah.
Now we're about to have baby number 6. There's been plenty of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this part obviously was, so I was watching this show the other night. I think you were working late again. So I was watching the show. No, you were in the shower. I was watching the show, and like the character in the movie was gay, and he was in a relationship, and he threw a surprise birthday party for his partner and invited his partner's parents, and he thought that his partner's parents knew that they were gay, but turns out they didn't. And his partner wasn't telling his parents because he was afraid that his parents were going to reject him and that life was going to kind of like change between his relationship and his parents' relationship. And just like seeing that scene was super emotional for me. Like I was like crying on the scene, and it's actually a comedy. The show is a comedy. So, but like that scene, just like, I just was like crying on that scene. And then you end up seeing the parents end up reacting positively to the kid. But I just couldn't even imagine, like I just was thinking so much like, wow, like I cannot believe, like I know that parents have rejected their kids because their kids have come out honestly and just said like, I'm gay, you know, like, or you know, whatever version of that. Like, and I just, as a parent, like, I can't even process that. Like, I cannot imagine like rejecting my kid or saying some horrible thing to my kid or telling them not to come to my house anymore. I just can't imagine doing any of those things. Like because that's your kid. Like I don't get it. Like that's your child, and that's certain feelings that they have, and it might be for that time or it might be for the rest of their life. But I don't know. Like I was just super, super sad to hear. And then at the end of the show, they put up a hotline, like if you're having trouble like kind of coming out and you want to talk to somebody about it and you're not sure how your family's gonna react. Like I don't know, the whole thing was just super, super sad to me that there even has to be such a thing. But I'm glad that there is a hotline for people to call. But when he said on here, like, they've been so mean. Again, mean to me is a word that kids use. You're mean. You know what I mean? Like, adults don't usually say, that person's mean. Like, you're like, wow, F them. You know what I mean? Like, usually we kind of come with a tougher standpoint, even though that's exactly what it is. But when he said that, like, I don't know, I felt so sad. And he said, when he said, you know, he thought about Jesus and how Jesus said, forgive them for they don't know what they're doing. And he said, but sometimes I think that they do. I think that Jesus' situation was different, and I think that the people didn't recognize, some of them didn't recognize who they were actually killing. But I do think that, in ways, maybe like when someone says that they're gay, that kind of comes across as like a category of people that have been dehumanized. So people don't really think about their feelings or whatever. Like when I say people, I'm talking about like, because he's talking about Christian people, so I'm kind of talking about that. Like, if it's like they don't view them as a person. I don't know. But it's extremely sad. And then obviously when he goes on to the questions of if all the heathens burn in hell, do all their children burn as well? What about the Muslims and the gays and the unwed mothers? What about me and my friends? If we're all sinners, does that matter even in the end? Does it matter in the end if we're unhappy? Just sad stuff.
It's a weird thing, you know, because the term gospel means literally, it means good news.
Right.
But there are certain strands of Christianity where the more upset you make people in your gospel presentation, then the more faithful you're being.
I know.
Like it was subculture that we were a part of. You know, like they really, really believe. And then they go, well, Jesus didn't get crucified because he was saying a bunch of nice things. I was like, yeah, but he didn't get crucified by the rank and file prostitutes, and he got crucified mainly at the instigation of religious people. Certainly the rank and file, Jerusalemite, whatever, participated, but the people that were mainly calling for his blood were religious people. And it's because he had the audacity, there are definitely times when Jesus looked at people, said, stop sinning, go and sin no more. Yep. But there are also times when you just see Jesus is at a party and he's not preaching, he's just at the party. Mm-hmm. And that's all it says. Right. People are like, well, he did. It's like, how do you know? Mm-hmm. Why are you saying that? And there were times when he specifically would hide who he was and not disclose who he was, particularly in the wedding at Cana, where he's like, okay, I'm going to do this and turn the water into wine so that you're not embarrassed, but I'm not going to make a show of this thing because I don't want people to know who I am. I'm just going to blend into this crowd and be anonymous. And so it's like, when you check, I remember presenting that to Christians, and the first time they hear about it, they get very uneasy and upset, and they want to call you a sellout and whatever. Yeah. They're very, very uncomfortable about it, especially the context that we were in. Yeah. So it's like, sometimes I'm not going to say I'm necessarily a Christian initially. And people get crazy about it.
Well, I think it's because you've met so many people that will be like, say that they're a Christian, but they're never really doing anything about their Christianity. So you don't want to become one of those people that gets comfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable to have to tell someone that this or that part of your lifestyle doesn't line up with the Bible. Or, like that this needs to change or whatever, like that you're trying to say to somebody. It's, for most people, I mean, you're not the norm if you're okay with saying something like that. Like, anytime that you have to come against somebody for something that they're doing and tell them that they're wrong, it's an uncomfortable conversation. And so if if you're like, oh, we have to just be abrasive, and you kind of like get yourself on that run, then you're like, okay, this is how it is. But if you're like, okay, sometimes we're just going to sit at the party, and then other times we're going to say something, then it's like, how do you know when you're supposed to do what thing? And obviously that makes you can make it more.
I mean, my mindset is I read the Gospels and I try to get aggressive where Jesus was aggressive, and then be, conciliatory when he's conciliatory. So where was he the most aggressive? He was most aggressive against religious people, rich people, and people who take care of who take advantage of societally vulnerable people, particularly how women were treated and how children were treated. And he reserved some really harsh invective for people who went after women and went after children. He had at one point, you hurt a kid, tie a rope around your neck and throw yourself into the sea. Like, you don't hear him saying that about. So I try to be as vocal and as aggressive with the people that Jesus was vocally aggressive about, and then I'm going to do my best to be as conciliatory with the people that he was conciliatory to. So if he's around tax collectors and sinners, you don't hear him saying, screw tax collectors, throw yourself off a cliff. They knew that they were already at odds. But they were all trying to find their way, like, is there a way for me to relate to God without completely changing? I think a lot of people, it's like, this is one of the very strange kind of ironies of the whole original sin discussion, because, like, if I say all of us are screwed up and have parts of us that need to change, people say, oh yeah, that's true. That's all it means. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But at the same time, I'm in a conversation with Kellen Dross. He grows up in a Catholic context. It's not used that way. It's used to me, it's a comforting doctrine. Because to me it says, okay, I see this rebellion in Orion. He's not a lost cause. Like, it's okay. You don't have to freak out. It's okay. It's okay. It's alright. Like, it's in him. And just like you need a savior, and there's things about you that you don't like, and there's things about you your wife and kids and friends don't like, and then there's things about you that they love. Because you're in the image of God, and that's what they love, and you have a sinful nature, and that's what pisses them off. And it kind of levels everybody off to me. Kind of makes everything level, and then we work out on equal footing, but it hasn't, you talk to Kellendross, and his experience is not that. Kellendross has no problem saying, yep, I'm not a perfect person. There's a whole bunch of shit that I wish I did differently. There's a whole bunch of good that I should have done that I didn't do, blah, blah, blah. Like the whole 9 yards. Like, but because the term sinner carries so much extra sociological weight to it, because we, when I'm saying we as Christians, use the term sinner as if it's some special class of bad that we're not.
Yeah.
And really, if you look at it technically, if there's a special class of bad, it can only be committed by religious people. Because Jesus said, to much is given, much is required. Mm-hmm. So if you're the person who is a possessor of the truth, then you are going to be held to a higher account of badness than unbelievers anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have no, sometimes, like, when you're out there advocating for the, my thing is I'm always going to, like, elevate my aggression based on the degree to which I think the group is being exploited, is vulnerable. So if I'm in a right-wing circle, then unborn babies are not vulnerable, but if those babies have the misfortune of being born in the wrong country and have the wrong parents, they could end up in a cage, and that would be justified with those groups. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to escalate my rhetoric to those people because those kids are, and I'm going to force an antithesis where you're really good or bad, man. Like, you support this or you don't. Because that's how Jesus confronted people. And conversely, if I'm in a certain circle and unborn babies are up for killing, but everybody's, if the baby makes it safely through the birth canal, then we'll cry rightly over the cages, but don't give a damn about the kid. Well, then we're gonna escalate the aggression and force the antithesis in that situation. So because that's how I think Jesus operated. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much about condemning somebody for holding an idea; it's about forcing the issue for vulnerable people.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with that.
Escalating the degree of urgency. But because that can't be extricated from the way that the Christian church... And the other thing about it, I had somebody hit me up, today. It was one of my best friends on the Middle America Forum, and he's like, you and Sori are the only pro-life people I've ever met. Oh. Which, it can't be true, but what he's talking about is holistic.
Yeah.
Holistic understanding, because all people have gotten from the church. So I think a lot of people would be completely fine with the term sinner and sin and things like that if we just said it's all those places about all those things about yourself that you wish you could be better at. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, I wish I could be more generous, I wish I could be more this, I wish I could be more that, I wish I could be more patient, I wish I could be more open-minded. Everybody has something about themselves that they, even without having a biblical standard of morality, could say, no, I could do better.
I'd like to improve here.
Yeah. And I've never met a person, even Ben Webb, for all his craziness. Like, me and Ben, I'm not going to share him, obviously, but we've had some pretty beyond the surface level conversations. He would even say that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, but because it's piled with so much freight, so now he asks the question, like, are we all sinners if we sin? And I think a lot, especially like the subculture we came out, would say, no, you sin because you're a sinner. And then they would go on and, answer the question without understanding that there's something underneath that question.
Yeah.
What about the Muslims and the gays and the unwed brothers? That's a question every time religion comes up in a fireside. Like, if I say, okay, we're going to freestyle, we're going to do a fireside that has no... Fireside is just a live stream. That has no agenda. That question always comes up when it gets religious. Every single time. What about people who never heard blah, 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 blah? My answer is always the same. Is that, there's no labels in the kingdom. Jesus didn't say, okay, I'm going to preach Christianity. Mm-hmm. He talked about the kingdom of God. And so the answer is always, everybody who genuinely wants God will have him. And Jesus said, if you seek me, you'll seek me and find me. When you seek me with your whole heart, I'll be found by you, says the Lord. And Acts 17 tells us that God put everybody where they are, in the place and the time that they're in, so that we could search for him and perhaps find him, even though he is close to each one of us. Mm-hmm. He's not far from each one of us. He's not far from each one of us. So So he put people in the time and the place and the region that would give them the best opportunity to find him if they genuinely want him. So that's the answer to the question. So, you know, the mechanics of that, sure. I mean, definitely a discussion, but that's the answer. So I love the song. I thought it was one of the bravest songs I've heard in quite some time. And really, you know, even on this, the commercials that are happening here, like over here, there's stuff that I could talk about for the next 2 hours, but I'm not going to.
I wasn't watching it. I just saw dancing.
Yeah, it's more Chicago bullshit. More people getting out of the ghetto and becoming successful and then getting killed by their own people. But whatever. What do you get the song?
Oh gosh. It's probably, if you factor in everything, it's probably a 10 for me because the realness of it, I thought that really like brought it right up there. But I did like the sound of his voice, and I like songs that are kind of like slow like that. So for me, I'm gonna go with a 10.
Yeah, it's 10. It's 10. It's a good song. It's a good song. And shout out, what's his name? Gabriel?
But no, Benjamin.
Benjamin. I don't know why I
How
said
could you
Gabriel.
forget that?
I don't know. What do you mean, how could I forget it?
Because I was like, Benjamin Button, and we had that conversation.
Oh, Benjamin. Yeah, it's Benjamin Button on that thing. So
No, it
there you
just
go.
says Benjamin B.
Well, I didn't want to say his name was Benjamin B. So
Why?
I just said Button so that...
Yeah. I don't think that'll...
Anyway, there you are. Nothing you can do.
If I say Vin S, nobody knows what your last name is, just from an S.
Yeah, that's a good point. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.
Jesus, Jesus, could you tell me what the problem is with the world and all the people in it? Because I've been hearing stories about the end of the world, but I'm in love with a girl and I don't want to leave her. And the television screams such hideous things. They're talking about the war on the radio. They say the whole thing's gonna blow, and we will all be left alone. No, we'll be dead, and we won't know what hit us. Jesus, Jesus, if you're up there, won't you hear me? 'Cause I've been wondering if you're listening for quite a while. And Jesus, Jesus, it's such a pretty place we live in, and I know we fucked it up, but please be kind. Don't let us go out like the dinosaurs, or blown to bits in a third world war. There are 100 different things I'd still like to do. I'd like to climb to the top of the Eiffel Tower, look up from the ground at a meteor shower, and maybe even raise a family. Jesus, Jesus, there are those that say they love you, but they have treated me so goddamn mean. And I know you said forgive them, for they know not what they do. But sometimes I think they do, and I think about you. And if all the heathens burn in hell, do all their children burn as well? What about the Muslims and the gays and the unwed mothers? And what about me and all my friends? Are we all sinners if we sin? Does it even matter in the end if we're unhappy? Jesus, Jesus, I'm still looking for answers, though I know that I won't find them here tonight. But Jesus, Jesus, could you call me if you have the time? And maybe we could meet for coffee and work it out. And maybe then I'll understand what it's all about. Jesus, Jesus, could you tell me what the problem is with the world and all the people in it? Because I've been hearing stories about the end of the world, but I'm in love with a girl and I don't want to leave her. And the television screams